And before going on to lesson 2, I had to add a lesson 1A. This implies that there may be a 1B, a 1C, a 1D, a 1E. But this is kind of new to me, so as I'm teaching you, if I think of things that will help fill in the backstory, because one of the things that I found when I was teaching children in school back in the dark ages was that whenever they failed to learn something, it was always my fault because I had left out a step. And so that may happen as I'm trying to coach you in playing various piano styles. And we don't want that to happen. And if I discover it, the beauty of what we're doing here is I can always go back and make some videos and insert some new PDF files in there for you and get you where you need to be. Okay. What I'd like to do right now is to make sure you know to download the PDF of this lesson, because we discussed diatonic scale tone chords. If you remember from the last lesson, we were in the key of G and we built a chord on each note of the scale. We have the 1 chord, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then back to the 1. In example number 2, you're going to see basically the same thing, except this time I'm going to add the 7th tone so that we'll have basically the scale tone 7th chords in addition to the scale tone chords. Again, I've created these and printed them out in all 12 keys so you'll be able to practice them. It's important to be able to get these down in all 12 keys. I'm going to start again on the key of G, and the scale tone chords, the 7th chords, are built by adding the 7th degree above the bottom note. That's why it's called a 7th. We're going to use only the tones of the G major scale for this example, but you can alter the 7ths obviously, because if you recall in the last lesson I played G7 this way, where I took the F sharp and made it an F. All right, perfectly legal, but for right now, so that you understand, we're going to build 7th chords. I can only use, for the purposes of this example, the notes that are in the actual scale of G. G is G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and G. So that's the 1. Here's the 2. Again, that top note, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Here's 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you get the point. 4 chord, 5 chord, 6 chord, then the 7th chord, and then finally back to the 1 chord. In the last lesson, we talked about, I used a phrase, dominant 7th. All right, the dominant in the key of G is the note that's on the 5 or the 5th degree of the scale. That's true of any key. The tonic is always the 1 chord, home key, the root, the tonic. The 5 chord is called the dominant. So if you add that 7th chord, you get that dominant 7th sound. That's why when we had in the last lesson, when I flatted the 7th, it changed to that dominant 7th sound. All right, and so that's where we get that terminology from. 1 is always a tonic, 5 is a dominant, and the reason for those terms, the dominant wants to resolve to the tonic. It is the strongest progression we have in music. And if you've ever listened to classical music and their ending, you are liable to have 16 measures of 5-1. And you know, when you're listening to a country song, you've got to have this as your ending. So that's your 5-1. And I encourage you to look over your scale tone chords, practice those. Also practice your scale tone 7th chords. I want to address something here that we'll look at over and over again, but I want to go ahead and introduce the concept to you. And always, please remember, don't get frustrated if you feel overloaded at times. The fault is mine, not yours. I'm Mr. ADHD, oh look, a squirrel, kind of a guy, and so I tend to go ahead and spray things out there as they come across my mind, because in my way of thinking, sometimes it's the time to introduce it. But I'll be glad to answer any questions by email that you may have. But let's just take a look really quickly at chord substitutions. And this is not really that difficult. The way that you determine how to possibly substitute one chord for another is you look at the number of notes they have in common. And if they've got 2 or more notes, you're in good shape. So, if we're in the key of C, take that C chord, C, E, G. If you look at the A minor chord, you see that they share C and E. That works as a good substitution. Again, not all of these work all the time. It depends on the melody and that sort of thing, but this is where your ear starts getting developed to listen for the possibilities. If you take C and you look at E minor, which is the 3, they have the E and the G in common. So that one chord, C, could be an A minor, or you can substitute a 3. That sound of the A minor and the E minor, very, very different. Again, that's why you have to listen to the melody and take everything in context. And actually, I heard that progression, it may have been on the TV show Lost, that little motif. I believe that was where I heard it. They used that kind of a progression with that actual 1, 6 minor, 1, and a 3 minor. You'll have to forgive me. I've got it pretty bad. I can't watch a movie or a television show without analyzing the score that's happening underneath. All right, if you look at the F, which is the 4 chord there in the key of C, again, it's the same principle. If you go down to the D minor, you've got those 2 notes in common, or you could go a third above and you have the A minor. And notice it has that same sound. Starting to see a pattern here, I hope. Now, if you look at G, which is the 5 chord, you can go down again. That doesn't have quite the same sound because I played the F sharp, because we're in the key of C, there is no F sharp, and I used just the diatonic. All right. So let's look at Jesus Paid It All. I've written out the melody line for you. If you're not familiar with this, it's a hymn that most folks, if you go to church at all, you've heard this at some point. Very beautiful melody. Anyway, I'm going to play some chord substitutions there. And these are just using the diatonic chords. Nothing fancy here. Next, I'm going to play that for you, and this one's just for fun. I'm going to improvise it. I'll be using not just those chord substitutions, but a lot of chromatic variations and other things. Here's the good news. I'm going to transcribe that out, every single note that I play, and include it in this PDF. Also in this PDF, I'm including the scale tone chords and the scale tone seventh chords in all 12 keys for your practice. I hope this has been of some value to me. I would appreciate some feedback if you have suggestions for future lessons. Listen, guys and gals, I'm wide open to that. I want to get really good at this, and I want to get really good at helping you improve and become the player that you want to be. Blessings to you. Have a great day.